Welcome back to Handheld Hero. Pragmata might be one of the best signs for gaming this year, not just because it sold well, but because of what kind of game it is. This is a brand new IP from Capcom. It is not a remake, not a sequel, not another live service gamble, and not another safe franchise extension. It is a focused sci-fi action game with a strange world, a clear identity, and enough confidence to stand out in a market that often feels afraid of new ideas. And now it is actually breaking through. Capcom announced that Pragmata passed 1 million copies, sold in just 2 days, which is a huge milestone for a new IP. But the bigger story is what that says about players, because people always say they want new games, but publishers do not always act like they believe that. They keep going back to the safest brands, the safest formulas, and the safest bets. Pragmata is a reminder that new games can still win. They just need to look confident, focused, and worth paying attention to. The reason this matters is because new IP is one of the hardest things to sell in modern gaming. When you make a sequel, players already know the name. When you make a remake, nostalgia does half the marketing for you. When you make a game from a massive franchise, the audience is already waiting. But with a new IP, you have to start from zero. You have to teach people what the game is, why the world matters, who the characters are, and why they should care enough to spend money and time on something unfamiliar. That is why so many big publishers play it safe. Sequels, remakes, open-world templates, battle passes, familiar brands, those things feel easier to explain. But Pragmata seems to have cut through because the pitch is simple enough to understand. It has a strong sci-fi look, it has action, it has puzzle elements, it has a memorable companion, it has a strange setting. And most importantly, it looks like it knows what it wants to be. That is the part that matters. A new game does not need to explain everything immediately, but it does need to give players a reason to look twice. Pragmata did that. One of the things that makes Pragmata interesting is that it does not seem desperate to be everything. And honestly, that might be part of why it is connecting. Not every game needs to be 80 hours. Not every game needs a giant map. Not every game needs endless gear systems, seasonal roadmaps, daily tasks, crafting trees, and 5 currencies before you even understand the core loop. Sometimes players just want a polished action game with a clear identity, a game that gives you a world, a mechanic, a relationship, and a reason to keep moving. That sounds simple, but right now, simple can actually feel refreshing. Games Radar described Pragmata as feeling like a spiritual successor to the Xbox 360 and PS3 era style of third-person action games, and I think that is exactly why this story hits. That era had plenty of games that were not trying to become your entire life. They were focused, stylish, memorable, and built around a clear hook. If Pragmata is bringing back even part of that feeling, then its success makes sense. Players are not tired of new ideas, they are tired of unclear ones. This also says a lot about Capcom. Capcom already has major franchises. Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Street Fighter, those are proven names. They could have kept leaning only on what already works. But Pragmata succeeding shows that Capcom can still introduce something new and get players to care. That is not easy. A new IP selling 1 million copies in 2 days means the marketing worked, the presentation worked, and the game had enough identity to break through the noise. And for the industry, that is encouraging. Because if publishers see new games succeed, maybe they take more risks, maybe they greenlight more original projects, maybe they remember that players do not only want the same names forever. Of course, this does not mean every new IP is automatically going to work. Pragmata also benefits from Capcom's reputation, strong visuals, and years of curiosity around the project. But that is still the point. When a studio with momentum takes a real swing and the game has a clear identity, players can show up. That is the kind of success the industry needs more of. So my take is simple. Pragmata matters because it proves new games can still win. Not every original idea will break through. Not every risk will pay off. But Pragmata shows that players are not allergic to new IP. They are allergic to games that do not know what they are. If a game has a strong look, a clear hook, polished gameplay, and a reason to care, people will pay attention, and that is why this success feels encouraging. In a year full of sequels, remakes, big franchises, and platform debates, Pragmata feels like a reminder that a new name can still cut through the noise. For me, that is worth paying attention to. But what do you think? Is Pragmata proof that new IP can still thrive, or is this just Capcom momentum doing the heavy lifting? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoy quick gaming breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe to Handheld Hero.